The human diplomat stood at the entrance of the grand alien palace, his heart pounding in his chest. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the peace talks between the human race and the alien empire. Years. War had raged between their peoples, and now, after countless attempts to negotiate, the two sides had finally agreed to meet. It was a rare opportunity, one that could change the fate of millions, if not billions, of lives. His name was Adam. A seasoned diplomat known for his calm demeanor and sharp mind. He had seen his fair share of tense negotiations, but this was different. The alien empire was vast, powerful, and unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The alien queen, their ruler, was said to be as beautiful as she was dangerous. No one had ever dared to oppose her, and no one had ever come back from her palace without being forever changed. Adam had no idea what to expect, but he knew that the future of human civilization depended on this meeting. As he walked through the massive doors, he was immediately struck by the grandeur of the palace. The walls shimmered with strange glowing symbols, and the air was thick with the scent of foreign spices. His footsteps echoed in the vast, empty hall as he made his way toward the throne room, where the queen would be waiting. When he entered, the queen was already there, seated on a throne that seemed to float in midair. She was tall, with pale blue skin that glowed softly in the dim light. Her eyes were a deep, otherworldly shade of purple, and her long silver hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall. She wore a regal outfit made of shimmering fabric that seemed to change color as she moved. She looked at Adam with a mixture of curiosity and power, as if she could see straight through him. "Human," she said, her voice smooth and commanding. "I have heard much about your kind. You are the ones who think you can stand against me." Adam swallowed hard but kept his composure. He had faced many powerful leaders in his time, but there was something about her that made his usual calm demeanor waver. "I am here to discuss peace," he said, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "The war has gone on long enough. It's time for both of our peoples to find a way to coexist." The queen leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Listen, you think I'll just listen to a human and suddenly agree to peace?" She stood up abruptly, her height even more imposing as she walked toward him. "What makes you think you have the power to change anything? You are nothing compared to the might of my empire." Adam stood his ground, though his heart was racing. "I believe in diplomacy," he said, "and I believe that we can reach an agreement. But we need to stop fighting and start talking." The queen stopped in front of him, so close that he could feel the heat from her body. Her eyes bore into his with an intensity that made him feel small, insignificant. For a moment, neither of them spoke. It was as if the weight of the entire galaxy was pressing down on them. Then, without warning, the queen reached out and grabbed him by the collar, pulling him toward her with surprising strength. Adam's breath caught in his throat as she pinned him to the wall with one swift movement. "You want peace?" she whispered, her voice low and dangerous. "Then marry me." Adam froze, his mind unable to comprehend what had just happened. His body was pressed against the cold wall, and the alien queen was holding him with an iron grip. He could see the fire in her eyes, a mix of anger, desperation, and something else that he couldn't quite place. "What?" he managed to gasp, his voice barely a whisper. "Marry me," she repeated, her tone not just commanding but also strangely calm. "If you want peace, you must bind yourself to me. Only then will I believe you are serious about ending this war." Adam's mind raced as he tried to process her words. Marry her? The queen? Was this some kind of cruel joke? He had come here to negotiate, to bring peace between their peoples, not to become entangled in some alien royal scheme. But the look in her eyes told him that she wasn't joking. She was dead serious. For a long moment, Adam stood frozen, unable to move, unable to speak. The gravity of the situation hit him all at once. This was no longer just a political negotiation. The fate of humanity, the fate of countless lives, hung in the balance. And the queen, in all her power and beauty, was giving him an impossible choice. Adam stood there, pinned to the wall, his heart racing in his chest. The alien queen's grip on his collar was unyielding, her eyes burning with intensity. He could Feel the weight of her words pressing down on him. Marry me if you want peace. The room seemed to spin around him as he tried to understand what she was asking. Was this some kind of test? A cruel joke? Was it something more? He didn't know what to say. His mind was racing, trying to process the impossibility of her demand. Marry her? A queen from a species he had never even heard of until recently. The thought seemed absurd, yet the queen's eyes showed no sign of humor. She was serious. She studied him for a moment longer, as if waiting for him to respond. Adam opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. His breath was shallow, his mind struggling to find the right words. Finally, he managed to speak. Why? Why would you ask that? His voice was barely a whisper, but the queen heard him clearly because, she said calmly, your people do not understand. They do not see the gravity of the situation. If I am to end this war, it will not be because of your words or promises. It will be because of the bond we share. Only then will my people trust you. Only then will peace be possible. Adam tried to gather his thoughts, but everything seemed so impossible. This wasn't just a matter of politics. The fate of entire worlds was at stake, and here he was, trapped in a palace with an alien queen who was asking for something beyond his comprehension. The queen released him, and Adam stumbled back, trying to regain his balance. He was still trying to process her words when she turned away from him, her back to him now. Her voice was softer, but still firm. This is not a decision I expect you to make lightly, she said. I understand that this is unusual, but the only way to unite our peoples, to truly end this war, is through a bond that is deeper than diplomacy. Adam swallowed hard. The war had torn both their peoples apart. Countless lives had been lost, and he had seen the damage firsthand. He was here to end it. That was why he had come. But this, a marriage. It felt like an impossible choice, one that no sane person would make. And if I refuse? Adam asked, his voice trembling with uncertainty. The queen turned to face him again, her expression unreadable. If you refuse, the war will continue. You will return to your people, and you will go home with nothing but failure. I will remain. In my palace, surrounded by enemies, my people will never trust you, and this war will continue until both of us are destroyed. Adam's mind raced. Refusing was not an option. If he refused, the war would continue. Humanity had already lost. So much, the queen's offer, as strange and personal as it was, seemed like the only way to bring an end to the destruction. But could he really marry an alien queen? Someone from an entirely different species? For the sake of peace? The queen took a step toward him, her expression softening for the first time since their meeting began. You are a diplomat, Adam. You know what it means to make difficult choices? This is no different. But I ask you to see beyond the personal. I ask you to see the bigger picture. Adam looked at her, his eyes searching her face for any hint of insincerity. He saw none. There was nothing but seriousness, the weight of her words hanging in the air, like a thick fog. I don't know if I can do this, Adam admitted, his voice low. Marrying you? It's not just a political decision. It's a personal one. It's something I never imagined in my wildest dreams. The queen nodded. I understand, but this is the way, is the only way. Adam closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He had come here to negotiate peace. He'd come here to stop the war, to save lives. But now, peace seemed like it came with a price far higher than he could have ever imagined. Finally, he opened his eyes and looked at her again. And if I say yes? He asked, his voice trembling with the enormity of the decision. What happens then? The queen smiled, a rare, soft smile that took Adam by surprise. Then we begin a new chapter, she said. We will work together. To end the war, to bring peace to both our peoples. It will not be easy, and there will be challenges ahead. But it will be worth it. You will no longer be a stranger to my people. You will be my equal. Adam took a deep breath, his mind swirling. With uncertainty, he had to make a choice. He had toy you need. But remember, the war is not waiting. Adam turned and walked away, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. What he had been asked to do was owled, he, a human diplomat, bind himself to someone so different. Yet at the same time, how could he turn away from the only chance for peace between their two peoples? The palace was quiet in its vastness, and Adam couldn't help but feel the isolation creeping in. He was alone in a foreign land, surrounded by alien customs and strange technology. Every corner of the Queen's world felt unfamiliar, even hostile. Yet he had come here with one purpose in mind, to end the war. Could this truly be the only way? The Queen had given him time to think, but the days felt like weeks. Every time he walked through the grand halls of the palace, the weight of the decision seemed heavier. The idea of marriage to an alien queen still felt impossible, but deep down, Adam knew that without the Queen's trust and the alliance, the peace talks would fail. He would return to Earth empty-handed, the war continuing. With more lives lost in the process, one evening, unable to stay inside any longer, Adam decided to take a walk through the palace gardens. It was a vast, lush space, with strange plants and flowers that glowed softly in the dim light. The air was thick with the scent of alien blooms, and the sky above was a deep purple, dotted with distant stars. As he wandered, lost in his thoughts, he didn't notice the Queen approaching, stopped in his tracks when he heard her voice. "You walk alone, human," she said, her tone still as commanding as ever, but with a hint of something else, something softer. Adam turned to face her. She stood there, her silver hair flowing behind her like a cloak of moonlight. Her eyes were fixed on him, her expression unreadable. "I needed to clear my head," Adam said, his voice almost a whisper. This isn't easy." The Queen tilted her head slightly, considering him. "I understand," she replied, "but peace is never easy. Why are sacrifices? And sometimes those sacrifices are personal." Adam glanced down at his feet, unsure of what to say. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," he confessed. "I've spent my life negotiating, making deals between nations, between worlds. But this marrying you, it's not something I ever imagined." The Queen's eyes softened, and for a brief moment, Adam saw a flicker of vulnerability in her gaze. "I did not ask for this either. It is not an easy decision for me. My people, my court, they expect me to marry for power, for the good of the empire. They do not care for what I want." Adam looked up at her, meeting her gaze. He had never seen this side of her before. She was not just the powerful alien queen, but a persona, ruler burdened by responsibility. There was more to her than the cold, commanding leader he had first met. "I can see that," he said quietly. "You're not asking for a marriage of convenience, are you? You want something real?" The Queen nodded slowly, her face softening. "Yes, but I know that it is difficult for you, for a human, to bind themselves to an alien ruler. I understand your hesitation. It's not just politics. It's personal, as you said." They stood there for a long moment, the silence between them, thick with unspoken understanding. Adam knew that her words were true. This wasn't just about ending a war or making a deal. It was about two people, two different species, learning to trust each other in a way that went beyond politics. It was about finding a common ground, even if that meant sacrificing part of themselves. Finally, Adam spoke again. "But you're right. Peace isn't easy, and maybe this is the only way. If we are to truly end this war, we have to give each other something we don't fully understand. Maybe that's what this is. A step into the unknown." Queen stepped closer to him, her presence as commanding as ever, but there was a warmth in her eyes now. "You are wise, Adam. You see the bigger picture." Adam exhaled slowly, the tension in his chest finally beginning to ease. He still didn't know if he was making the right decision, but he knew that he couldn't let this opportunity slip away. The stakes were too high. The war had already cost too many lives. If he could truly end it, even if it meant an impossible choice, then he would find a way to make it work. "I don't know what the future holds," he said, his voice steady now. "But if this is the path to peace, then I will walk it." The Queen regarded him for a moment before nodding. "Then we will begin together." As she turned to walk away, Adam felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. This wasn't just a political maneuver anymore. It was something deeper, something personal. And although he still didn't fully understand what it meant to marry an alien queen, Adam knew one thing for certain. The path ahead would be difficult, but it was a path he had to take for peace. For the future, Adam stood in front of the Queen's throne room, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. The days had passed since their conversation in the garden, and he still wasn't sure what to expect from the next step. He had agreed to marry the Queen, to do whatever it took to end the war, but now that the decision was made, things didn't feel any easier. He couldn't stop thinking about the consequences. Could a marriage truly bring peace between their two worlds? Was this really the right choice? The alien queen Arya had told him that the bond between them would be key to bringing unity. But Adam could feel the tension in the air as he walked through the palace halls. Even though Arya had been open with him, there was still so much he didn't understand about her people, her customs, and what their union would mean in the long run. As he entered the throne room, Arya was already there, seated on her high throne. She looked regal as always, her expression calm and composed. But even as she looked serene, Adam could see the same tension in her eyes, the weight of the responsibility she carried as ruler of her people. He could sense that her calm demeanor was a shield, one she wore to hide the burden of the decisions she had to make for the future of her empire. "Adam," she greeted him, her voice cool but not unfriendly. "I trust you've had time to think about our arrangement." "I have," Adam replied, his voice steady, though inside he was anything but calm. He had spent countless hours thinking about the future. And now that the moment was here, he still wasn't sure what was the best path forward. "But I have questions." Arya raised an eyebrow, her gaze sharpening. "Questions?" "It is a simple agreement, human. We marry, and the war ends. That is what we both agreed upon." "I understand that," Adam said, stepping closer. "But what happens after the marriage? What will it mean for both of us, for your people and mine? I need to understand the real consequences." For a moment, Arya remained silent, her fingers lightly resting on the arms of her throne. Then, slowly, she stood and walked toward him, her expression thoughtful. "The consequences, Adam, will be great for both of us. You will become part of my world, and I will become part of yours. Our two peoples will look to us for leadership and hope. There will be no turning back. Your people will see you as an ally to the alien empire, and my people will expect you to help guide them toward a new future. It will not be easy, and there will be challenges." Autumn took in her words, trying to picture what life would be like. Being part of her world, living with her people, it seemed so far removed from the life he knew on Earth. Would they accept him? Could he ever fully belong in a place so different from everything he had known? "And what about your court?" Adam asked, trying to understand the political side of things. Do they agree with this marriage? Do they want it? Arya's eyes darkened slightly, the smallest flicker of frustration crossing her face before she regained her composure. "My court is divided. Many see this marriage as a necessary step to ensure peace, but there are others who view it as a betrayal. There are those who want to preserve the old ways, those who would prefer to continue the war until they have full control of their territory. Not everyone agrees with my leadership, and not everyone agrees with this marriage." Adam could see the complexity of the situation. It wasn't just about the two of them. It was about an entire empire, divided and struggling to find its place in the galaxy. Arya wasn't just a queen. She was a leader, trying to hold together a fractured world. And now, with him, she was offering a chance for something new, something that could unite them all, but at a great personal cost. "So, this marriage is more than just peace. It's about your rule, too," Adam said quietly. Arya nodded. "Yes, it is. But not just mine. It's about the future of my people. The war has cost us too much, Adam, and I can't ask for peace if I don't give something of myself in return. This union, though difficult, is the only way forward. It will show my people that I am serious about ending this war. It will give them the hope they need to rebuild." Adam paused, thinking about her words. He was beginning to understand. This was more than a political marriage. It was a symbol of hope, a chance for both of them to create something better for their people. But that didn't make it any easier. How could he step into a role so different from everything he had ever known? How could he be the link between two worlds that seemed so far apart? "I've never thought of peace like this," Adam admitted, his voice soft. "I've always believed it came from discussions, from agreements signed and treaties made. This... this is different." Arya studied him carefully, her expression softening for a moment. "You are right. Peace isn't just about what we say. It's about what we do, and who we are willing to become. If we are truly going to end this war, we must be willing to make sacrifices. The people will follow us if they see that we are willing to give everything for peace." Adam could feel the weight of her words. The stakes were higher than he had imagined. This marriage wasn't just about ending a war, it was about changing everything. It was about creating a new future, one that neither of them could predict, but one they both had to work toward. "And what about me?" Adam asked, the uncertainty in his voice returning. "What about my people? How do I explain this to them?" Arya's gaze softened, her eyes locking onto his. "You will lead them, Adam. You will be their voice in this new world. Together, we will show them that peace is possible." The room felt heavier, the silence between them thick with the unspoken understanding that they both had a long road ahead of them, a road that would require trust, sacrifice, and Korag. Adam didn't know where this journey would take them, but he knew one thing for sure: there was no turning back now. The days following Adam's agreement to marry the alien queen, Arya, were filled with strange tension. The halls of the palace seemed quieter than usual, as if even the air itself was holding its breath. The decision he had made still weighed heavily on his mind. Was it the right choice? Did this truly bring peace? Or was he walking into a trap? He spent much of his time with Arya, learning more about her empire, the complexities of the politics, and the fragile alliances that held everything together. They worked together slowly to build trust and understanding. Adam could see the strain in Arya's eyes every time they discussed the future of her people. This was more than just a marriage. It was a chance to save her empire from collapse, and the pressure was immense. Yet, despite the growing bond between them, Adam could feel the uncertainty building. Not everyone in the Queen's court supported the peace talks. In fact, some members of her inner circle had been openly hostile, questioning the wisdom of marrying a human. Adam couldn't help but wonder how deep this mistrust ran. How far would some go to stop the union? One evening, as Adam and Arya sat together in the palace's grand library, going over the plans for the upcoming peace ceremony, an urgent knock came at the door. Adam looked up as a servant entered, bowing quickly. "Your Highness," the servant said, addressing Arya, "there's news from the council. It's urgent." Arya's expression hardened as she nodded. "Show them in." Servant stepped aside, and two of Arya's most trusted advisors entered. Adam had seen them before the older man. Kale was a powerful general, while the woman Selene was a member of the royal court, known for her sharp political mind. Both of them were respected figures within the empire, but Adam had always felt a certain tension when he was around them. There was a quiet hostility in the air whenever they spoke with him. "Your Highness," Kale began, his voice stern, "there's been a breach in the council. Someone has been spreading false rumors about your intentions. They claim that you are using this marriage as a way to solidify power, not for peace." Arya's face tightened, and she stood quickly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "What are you saying? Who would dare spread such lies?" Selene, who had been standing quietly, spoke next, her voice filled with concern. "It's worse than we thought. The rumors have spread to several factions within the court. Some of them are beginning to question your leadership. They believe you are making a mistake by trusting the humans, that this union will weaken the empire." Adam's stomach tightened. The rumors were growing, and they were threatening everything he and Arya had worked for. He could see the fear in Arya's eyes now, something he had not seen before. She was a queen, strong and confident in her decisions. But even she was not immune to the pressure of those around her. "This is exactly what I feared," Arya said, her voice cold with anger. "I trusted the wrong people." Adam watched as Arya stepped away, her mind clearly racing. He knew that her position was precarious. The peace talks, their marriage, everything depended on her ability to maintain control over her empire. And now a betrayal from within threatened to unravel everything. "Who is behind this?" Adam asked, his voice steady. "Who is trying to sabotage the peace?" Arya turned to him, her eyes dark with frustration. "I don't know yet, but I will find out. I cannot allow this to ruin everything we've worked for." The tension in the room was thick as Kale and Selene exchanged worried glances. Adam could sense that they were not as trustworthy as they appeared. He had always suspected that there were those who wanted to see him fail, to see the peace talks collapse, but he never imagined it would come from within the Queen's inner circle. "We need to act quickly," Selene said, her voice low but firm. "If the factions in the court begin to rise against the Queen, it will be too late to save the peace. We need to find the source of these rumors and stop them before they spread any further." Adam nodded, his mind already working through the possibilities. "I'll help you, Arya," he said, his voice calm. "We can find out who's behind this together." Arya met his gaze, a mixture of gratitude and determination in her eyes. "Thank you, Adam. I can't do this alone." The next few days were filled with tension and quiet whispers. Adam and Arya worked together to investigate the source of the rumors. He spoke to the palace guards, searched for any signs of who might be behind the plot, and slowly they began to piece things together. It wasn't long before they discovered that the rumors were being spread by a group of disgruntled nobles within the court. These nobles had always opposed the peace talks, and they saw the marriage as a threat to their power. They believed that the union would weaken the empire's military strength and give too much influence to the humans. The more Adam and Arya learned, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about politics, it was about control. As the investigation continued, Adam grew increasingly frustrated. The closer they got to uncovering the truth, the more the factions within the court pushed back. It was clear that there were those who would stop at nothing to keep the war going, even if it meant betraying their own queen. One evening, as Adam and Arya sat in a private room, reviewing their findings, the door creaked open. It was Kale, the general. His face was grim as he entered. Adam felt a wave of suspicion wash over him. "You've uncovered the source of the rumors," Kale said, his voice low and threatening. "But you're too late." Adam and Arya exchanged a glance, both sensing that something was terribly wrong. Kale stepped closer, his expression hardening. "You think you can bring peace between us and the humans? You think you can just marry this human and everything will be fine?" Kale's voice rose with anger. "You've already weakened us, and now you'll pay the price." With those words, Adam realized that the true threat wasn't just the rumors, it was the people who would stop at nothing to maintain control. The peace they had worked for was hanging by a thread, and the betrayal from within was more dangerous than either of them had imagined. Adam paced back and forth in his room, his mind racing. The betrayal they had uncovered was worse than he could have imagined. Kale, the powerful general, had been behind the rumors all along. His words from that night echoed in Adam's mind. "You've already weakened us, and now you'll pay the price." Adam had never felt more uncertain. The peace they had worked so hard for seemed to be slipping through their fingers, and the tension between the factions within the court had reached a boiling point. He could feel the weight of the situation pressing on him. The Queen's empire was in danger, and so was the fragile alliance between humans and aliens. Arya, the Queen, had placed so much trust in him, and now it seemed as though they were on the edge of losing everything. The trust they had built, the promises they had made, all seemed to hang in the balance. Adam stopped pacing and looked out of the large window, the night sky dotted with stars. For a brief moment, he felt a sense of calm. The stars above were always the same, no matter where you were in the galaxy. It was a reminder that some things could be constant, even in the face of uncertainty. But even the stars couldn't make him feel better about the situation at hand. He turned away from the window and walked toward the door, knowing what he had to do. There was no more time to waste. The peace talks were on the brink of collapsing, and he couldn't stand by and watch it all fall apart. He had to make a choice: stay silent and let the court's divisions tear them apart, or take action and stand by the Queen. As he reached the door, it opened, and there stood Arya. She looked as regal as ever, her long silver hair cascading around her shoulders. But there was something different in her eyes, a sense of exhaustion, as though the weight of her entire empire rested on her shoulders. "Adam," she said, her voice quiet but steady. "I knew you'd be here," he nodded, stepping aside. To let her enter? The two of them had spent so much time together recently, but this moment felt different. There was a distance between them now, a wall that neither of them could quite figure out how to break down. They had trusted each other, but now that trust was being tested in ways neither of them could have predicted. "Have you spoken to Kale?" Adam asked, his voice filled with a mix of frustration and concern. Arya shook her head. "Not yet. I know what he's trying to do. He wants to seize control, and he doesn't care about peace. He's not the only one either, and there are others who believe the war must continue, that the Empire needs to reclaim its former strength." Adam sighed, rubbing his temples. "I knew there were factions, but I didn't think they'd go this far. I thought we could work together, that peace was within our reach, but now—" Arya walked closer to him, her steps measured and deliberate. "Now we're at a crossroads, Adam. The future of both our peoples depends on the choices we make in the next few days. If we don't stop Kale and the others, the war will continue. There will be no peace. My people will never trust me again." Adam looked at her, his heart heavy with the gravity of her words. He could see how deeply this was affecting her, how the pressure was building. She was a queen, burdened with the weight of her empire, and here he was, a human caught in the middle of it all. But the truth was, this wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about something more. It was about a bond that had been forged through trust, through shared sacrifice. He couldn't just walk away. "I don't know what to do," Adam admitted. "I feel like every choice I make is the wrong one. I want to help, but I'm not sure where to even begin." Arya placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and reassuring. "You've already helped more than you realize. You've shown me that peace isn't just about what we say, it's about what we do. But now, we need to act. We need to unite our people, show them that we are stronger together than we are apart." Adam nodded slowly, feeling a spark of determination ignite within him. He had been so caught up in the fear of failure and the uncertainty of the future that he had forgotten the most important thing: he was not alone in this. Arya had trusted him, and now it was his turn to trust her. "All right," Adam said, his voice firm now. "We'll confront Kale and the others. We'll show them that we won't let this empire fall apart. We want peace. We have to fight for it together." Arya's eyes softened, a small smile appearing on her lips. "That's exactly what I needed to hear." Together, they left the room and walked through the palace corridors. The tension in the air was thick, but Adam felt a sense of clarity now, as though they were finally moving in the right direction. He had no idea how they would handle the conflict ahead, but he knew one thing: he wasn't going to back down. He had made a promise to Arya and to the people of both their worlds that he would help bring an end to this war. And he intended to keep that promise, no matter what. As they reached the council chamber, Adam could feel his pulse quicken. The fate of their peoples was about to be decided, and everything was riding on the decisions they made in the next few moments. But no matter what happened, Adam was ready. He had faced many challenges before, but this was different. This was for something greater than himself. It was for peace. The next morning, the tension in the palace had reached its peak. Adam could feel it in every corner, in every glance exchanged between the palace staff and Arya's advisors. They all knew that today was crucial. The peace talks, the marriage, everything depended on what would happen in the council chamber. Adam had never felt so nervous in his life, but he also felt something else's determination. He had come so far, and he wasn't going to let it all fall apart. As he walked alongside Arya, he could sense the change in her too. Her usual, confident, composed demeanor had softened. Her eyes, usually so focused and intense, now showed a hint of vulnerability. Adam could see the burden she carried, the weight of the empire and its future resting on her shoulders. But despite it all, she walked with him, side by side, ready to face whatever came next. I've never been this nervous before, Adam admitted, his voice low. It felt strange to say it out loud, but in that moment, he needed to express it. Everything feels so fragile. One wrong move, and it could all come crashing down. Arya glanced at him, offering a small, understanding smile. I feel it too, but you're not alone in this. We will face this together. We always have. Her words were a reminder that they had been through so much already. Their bond, forged through trust and shared experiences, was stronger than anything they had faced. This wasn't just about a political alliance anymore. It was about a deeper connection, one that transcended species and cultures. When they reached the council chamber, the doors were already open. The room was filled with Arya's closest advisors, the ones who had supported her and believed in the peace talks. But there were also faces Adam didn't recognize, those who had been quietly spreading the rumors. Those who didn't believe that peace was possible with humanity. Their presence in the room made it clear that this was not just another meeting. This was the turning point. As they entered, the room fell silent. The eyes of the council turned toward them, some filled with curiosity, others with suspicion. Adam could feel the weight of their gaze, but he kept his posture straight, his mind focused. Arya, too, stood tall beside him. She was the queen, and no matter how uncertain she felt inside, she couldn't show it.
Not now.
Today, Arya began, her voice strong and steady, we make a decision that will shape the future of our people. The rumors, the lies, they have torn at the fabric of this empire. But we cannot afford to be divided anymore. The peace talks with humanity are not a threat. They are our chance to rebuild, to create a future where we can live without fear of war. Adam could see the subtle shifts in the room as Arya spoke. Some of the advisors nodded in agreement, while others remained unmoved. It was clear that not everyone was convinced. But Arya wasn't backing down. She continued, her eyes sweeping across the room, meeting the gaze of each advisor. I will not let my people live in fear any longer. I will not let this empire be torn apart by those who only seek power through conflict. If you cannot stand with me in this, then you will stand against me. And I will not let anyone stand in the way of peace. Her words hung in the air like a challenge, and for a moment there was a tense silence. Adam could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, but he knew this was what they had to do. They had to make a stand. They couldn't let the factions within the court tear everything apart. Then, unexpectedly, one of the advisors, an older woman named Lyra, whom Adam had spoken with a few times, stood up. Her eyes were filled with resolve, but also a hint of sadness. She looked directly at Arya and nodded. You are right, my queen, Lyra said, her voice surprisingly gentle. I was one of those who doubted this alliance. I was one of those who feared what it would mean. But I see now that peace is our only hope. If we continue to fight, we will destroy ourselves. The humans may be different, but they are not our enemies. They are our allies in this fight for survival. Adam's heart lifted as he looked around the room. Slowly, other advisors began to speak up, offering their support for the peace talks. Some were hesitant, others more confident, but one by one, they began to stand with Arya. The shift in the room was subtle at first, but it was there. The support for peace was growing. Kale, the general who had once opposed the marriage and the peace talks, stood last. His face was hard, his eyes filled with a cold fire. He had always been a figure of power in the court, and Adam could feel the weight of his gaze as he stepped forward. For a moment, the room held its breath. This was the moment. Would Kale stand with them, or would he bring everything crashing down? Kale's eyes met Arya's, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. The tension in the room was palpable. Then, with a heavy sigh, Kale spoke. I see now that I was wrong, he said, his voice rough. I wanted power, and I believed that war would give us strength. But strength is not in war, is in unity. I stand with you, Arya. I stand with peace. The room seemed to exhale in relief. One by one, the advisors nodded, and a sense of calm began to settle over the chamber. The factions within the court had finally been united not by force, but by a shared desire for peace. The decision had been made. As the meeting came to an end, Adam felt a sense of hope that he hadn't allowed himself to feel before. Had done it. They had faced the greatest challenge of a linear conflict, and they had come out stronger for it. Peace was no longer a distant dream. It was a reality they had fought for, and now they had a chance to build a future together. Adam turned to Arya, who was smiling softly, her eyes full of gratitude. She stepped closer to him, her hand finding his. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. They had made it together. "We did it," Adam said, his voice filled with awe. Arya nodded, her smile widening. "Yes, we did, but this is just the beginning." Adam knew she was right. The road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in a long while, he felt confident. Together, they had found a way to bring peace to their worlds. And with that peace, they would face whatever challenges the future held side by side.